Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and welcome back for some more of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon from the likes of the Maxi Toys playthrough. So, yeah, last time that Duffy did manage to finally done with Sonic Drift 1 for the Sega Game Gear, even though despite the fact that it was actually really short and easy. But even then, as well as I could say that original for his standpoints for Duffy, that he actually did a pretty decent job as well. Even though he only lost like only a couple of races on that game, but even then, that's not too shabby and not too complicated either. So even then, that today for this point, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that Sylvester's turn is going to be for Sonic Drift 2, aka Sonic Drift Racing, for those of you guys lived in Europe. Now, you're probably wondering that name has been changed quite significantly. It's because, well, Sylvester's going to be discussing for all that being said and done. So even then, now you remember that yesterday, or in this case today morning, that we managed to get ourselves our brand new released Nintendo Switch console recently. So even then, if you guys want to check that out, it's in there from that, you know, for our YouTube channel at the moment. So even then, if you guys want to check that out. But even then, enough about this little Nintendo Switch nonsense for at the moment, because even then, we're still on the progressioning onto Sonic's Game Gear Marathon for this point, ladies and gentlemen, because, well, obviously, we're actually on the, almost on the halfway point right now, actually, because we only got about 5 more games to go until the actual marathon will be over and during that time period. So even then, though, that we got Sonic Drift 2, and we got Sonic Lapwith coming up, and, you know, you get these suggestions for that right off the bat. So, yeah, let's see how this goes for Sonic Drift 2. So even then, as far as the title suggests, we're going to be deciding to call it Sonic Drift 2, because it's a spiritual sequel to the first game. So even then, we don't want to get a sense of confusion for, you know, the title changes for that with departments right there. So on to you, Sylvester, on Sonic Drift 2. Oh, hey everybody, this is me, Sylvester the Cat here, and I'm from, of course, the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon for the Maxi Toys department. This time around, we're going to be tackling through Sonic Drift 2 for the Sega Game Gear. Now, this game did manage to came out in 1995, so even then, I'm pretty sure this game usually just came out after Sonic Triple Trouble and before Sonic 3D Blast, if I recall correctly or not. But even then, that's as far as I'm concerned with this game is more likely a spiritual sequel to Sonic Drift, the only Japanese exclusive title for the Sega Game Gear. As far as the title suggests, that we're still able to come across into the similar modes like Chaos GP, which is self-explanatory. Free runs is essentially going to be practicing these tracks in one point. Versus mode that we don't able to have versus mode available at the moment, and options so you can change various settings like computer difficulty and enemy turn on and off. So even then, self-explanatory, even then, that's all there's to really say about this here. So, yeah, much like how it does in Sonic Drift 1, the main focus of this Let's Play is obviously the Chaos GP mode, so even then, it should probably try to suggest. So, speaking of suggest, as you expected, just like the ones in the first game, you're going to be coming across into those 3 different cups, like the purple Chaos Cup, the white Chaos GP, and the final one was the blue one. So, as you expected, we're going on to those cups in particular order, so let's go with the purple Chaos GP Cup first, see if Fernando will start to get started. And speaking of starts, that all these, well, those 4 main characters are back from the first game, like Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Dr. Eggman. In addition to those 4 playable characters made their debut again, we also have ourselves these 3 newcomers introduced in the Sonic Drift series, which all consist of Knuckles the Echidna, Fang the Sniper, and Metal Sonic, whilst in North America it calls it Knack the Weasel, but it just calls it Fang for some reason. So, I believe what these 3 characters makes their debut in this game, I think it's probably because of, you know, Sonic Triple Trouble came out before Sonic Drift 2, so even though you got Fang the Sniper from Triple Trouble, and also Knuckles the Echidna as well, and even Metal Sonic from the likes of the Atomic Destroyer level, so that's why they makes those 3 playable characters existence for that newcomers introduced for the playable department. So So for this first cup, I'm going to be using Metal Sonic, C. Fernando, because he's essentially the newcomer introduced in the Sonic Drift universe. Well, technically his first appearance is obviously Sonic CD for the Mega CD, but I digress. So every time before you actually select your opponent or select your character, you can select up into two different types of these different playable characters you want to race against with. Like, for instance, you can either select it from auto or manual. So even then, auto is essentially a randomizer for these opponents you want to race against with. And the auto is simply you have to select what opponents you're going to be racing against with. So even then, that's a little bit of a change there. So yeah, this is Sonic Drift 2, as I established earlier. This is a spiritual sequel to the first game. You probably noticed right off the bat though is that the gameplay itself is very identical to the first game, except a noticeable difference. For one, we're actually introduced into a new item type, which is essentially these Black Bomb Screen Nuke, which is essentially these black item boxes. All these item boxes makes a return, like the blue ones can temporarily makes you invincible, red ones which can essentially gives you an extra boost, and the yellow ones can be act as the little jump, as like a spring. So even then, that is self-explanatory, and also these rings that you can actually grab every once in a while to actually give you some special abilities and what have you. Like, for instance, Metal Sonic's special ability was actually requires you need to grab like 3 rings or more until you actually use that upgrade, or even in this case, use that special ability. Much like how it does in Sonic Drift 1, is that in order to actually perform it, although to be fair, a brother of mine, Duffy Dog, is not able to mention that system, the item system usage in Sonic Drift 1. Between the first game and the second game, in order to actually use this special ability, is that you have to press the D-pad or directional pad up in order to actually use this special ability. Because even though I thought it was kind of a little bit too weird to use it, but even though at the same time it makes it a little bit easy to use with. So even though, yeah. So, as far as the title suggests, is that, obviously the gameplay itself is much more similar to the ones in the first game, except the fact that, although you're still able to actually drift every once in a while, like, in order to actually do it, drifting is by simply you have to press the A and the B button all together, so just in case you're able to actually do drifting quite well. So, yeah, the first track in this game was actually Emerald Hill 1, which is actually a revisiting stage from the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis if you lived in North America. And the second track we're actually going to is actually Hilltop Zone 1. And differently from the first game this time around is the fact that not all the tracks do actually have ourselves a little bit of a strict loop or anything like that, but some tracks do actually become linear. So if you know, for instance, for example, Hilltop 1 actually contains a linear map here, which that means all you have to do is basically race in order to actually get to the end, who actually claims the victory. So this was before when Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart 8 came around to actually perform themselves in different sections of that particular tracks themselves, which I think is actually really cool by the look of it though. And speaking of such though, is that the level themes got a little bit too different this time around compared to the first game this time around. It's the fact that not only do we get ourselves the revisiting stages from Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for most likely in the Mega Drive version, there are some exceptions, but we'll get into those during that time. So even then though, that the Hilltop was actually based off from, you know, Sonic 2 from the likes of the Mega Drive on the 5th zone. So even then, that despite the fact that the Hilltop zone is basically the recolored, or in this case a spiritual identical to Emerald Hill, but except it's all blue instead of like, you know, brown or orangey looking. So yeah, as far as the name suggests, that's how it usually goes. And also, just like the ones in the first game, you're able to actually see the bottom portion of the screen, as you can see, once you're driving the actual character. And then, if you see on the top portion of the screen, you can see the actual map. And the noticeable difference this time around, though, is the fact that you can actually see those 2 different profile images. Like, for instance, that in the left side of the actual top portion of the screen, you can see the playable character you're going to be using, which it says you on here. And also how much rings you're grabbing. And, yeah, that's what you expected how this is going. And the right portion of the top portion of the screen, you can see that who's on top of the actual leaderboard. So even then, take for instance, if who's actually in first or second. So even then though, that's, yeah. Speaking of such though, as you can see I got myself 2 on top of this little percentage meter. It means it's the position. So if it says 1, you're in first place. If you're in 2, that means second place. So even then though, I kinda wish it has that in Sonic Drift 1, but thankfully it fixes that in Sonic Drift 2. So even then though, that's a little bit of improvement. And finally, you probably noticed that I actually got 100% on here. It's probably because of the how much speed I'm actually reach up to. So even then, that yeah, you can either go a little bit higher than that, but even then, in order to actually increase one of your speeds significantly, is by simply you have to grab one of those blue item boxes to increase one of your speed and what have you. So even then, self-explanatory kind of thing about it. So even then, that's, you know, it feels exactly like how it does in the previous game. So yeah, that's all as you should get, as you can get. So, and another thing is worth mentioning though, is the fact that I really do apologize that this particular part of Sonic Drift 2 is actually uploaded quite late, because we're normally trying to actually upload those videos in during 6 o'clock usually, but even though it turns out that we decided to actually only do it for, let's say, almost during at 10 o'clock roughly, so even then, I really do apologize if this is going really late when it comes to uploading stuff. So even then, I promise until tomorrow, especially the other day afterwards, they're not able to actually get back onto the uploading schedule and during the usual time. So, with that being said, that's all I can really think about. So yeah, there's Dark Valley 1. So even though that's essentially a, you know, another linear road track. And now we move on to the fourth course in the game, which is actually forms of Casino Night, based off of from Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Mega Drive. So, and we're going back onto the actual loop track. So even then, that as you expected, we're going to be going around the track for 3 times before we actually manage to claim ourselves off victory. And another thing is worth mentioning though in this game is that they did manage to change things up for a bit, unlike the ones in the first game. Unlike the first game in the series, that they did manage to decrease the difficulty slightly for those computer opponents because they're very simple and easy to actually games with. However though, in Sonic Drift 2, they managed to actually increase our difficulty statements for the computer opponents this time around. You remember how in the first game they never shoot any of these projectiles really at all? But even then, what I've noticed right off the bat though, is the fact they now can actually shoot these projectiles this time around. So even then that's why it makes this game a little bit more harder than the likes of the first game, so even then yeah. As you can see right there, even though you can't clearly see what's going on, that I managed to pick up a star icon. What that does is that it acts like a screen nuke for a few seconds, and then what happens is that it will try to spin out those opponents if someone actually grabs it. So even then, that is a pretty cool item to get, but even then that's all I can really say about that particular item as a result. However though, there's one item that I really despise the most in this game, and that was the form of the R type of items. What these R balls can do is the fact that if you can clearly tell on the first lap on this track already, this allows you can actually reverse the controls. So even then that, for instance, if I was trying to steer to the left, it goes right, and if I try to steer to the right, it goes left. So even then that can really throw you off at points, even especially noticeable if you want to do a domination run through Sonic Drift 2, and especially noticeable in the third and final Chaos Cup as a result. So even then that's what I could really gather it here for anyway. Anyway, so the next course we have is Desert Road 1. Which is not in the actual Sonic game ever since, you know. I believe it does have a desert level in Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2, which is in form of Oil Desert Zone, and also the recent Sonic Mania game that recently came out during 2 days ago actually, which was March Solemn, in addition to the Gamble Casino Fest type of stage like that. So. And once again, we're going onto the entirety of the loop right there. We're going for 3 loop run-throughs on that track. And what's nice about this level, though, as you can see, is that we're actually going to be interact with the actual ramp. So even then, though, that was before when Mario Kart Wii came around, that we can actually, like, do some tricks and what have you, but there's no trick system in this game. So even then, though, that makes it more obvious until when before Mario Kart Wii came around. And even especially noticeable in Mario Kart 7, wow. They don't have themselves a little bit of a jump ramp, unlike it does in Tony Hawk. But even then, that's what I could really gather it here for, though, anyway. So, yeah, back into what I was saying about the computer AI in this game this time around, is that they now actually shoot the actual projectiles this time around, so it makes the actual races a little bit more harder. So even then, take Fang the Sniper, for example, that he'll occasionally try to actually shoot his projectile and whatnot, but even then that can really just try to spin you out at points. So even then that's the only thing I can basically give as an example of it. So Anyway, Tails is actually really far behind from it at one point right there, which is kind of an unusual thing. But hey, as long as I manage to claim myself my #1 victory right there, thanks to a split second or two, even then though, I managed to done that quite nicely. So now we move on to the final track in the particular Purple Chaos GP Cup, and now it's the form of Iron Ruin. Which even then though, that, it maybe seems a little bit of a weird name, but, hey, at least as far as I can gather though, anyway. As you guys can clearly see on the results screen and what have you, I'm actually got ourselves this little tiny pieces, means the Chaos Emerald pieces. Every time when you came in first place in each track, you're able to actually get yourselves a Chaos Emerald piece, and if you collect them all, then it doesn't do anything drastically about it besides the final GP Cup, which we'll get into that in a moment. But even then, that I will discuss more details onto that as soon as we actually proceed to this game in particular. So, but again, it gets a little bit progressively harder as you progress, especially noticeable that the rubber banding AI is a thing. But even then, that's as far as I can get about this. So even then, yeah. Oh yeah, every nowadays, they now actually added in bottomless pits now, so even then, that makes it a little bit more challenging compared to the first game, so even then, that back in the first game, there's nothing else to it for the hazardous involved, well, besides the occasional poles and running off-road and all that stuff. But even then, they now actually add in bottomless pit this time around, so even then, that's usually how we can actually think about it, so yeah, that's all I can really say about this here, so I guess there's not much else to say about this, to be honest with you, because there's not much else we can actually just think about it, because basically we actually got ourselves, oh god, the reverse ball. I really absolutely despise those items. You will occasionally run into those things very easily, especially noticeable if you manage to get towards the end. The only one I found is the worst offender of the reverse control balls. It's actually forms of the later stages, which we'll get into that in the next couple of videos or so, yeah, that was it, folks. That was it for the Purple Chaos GP. So, much like the first game, we actually got ourselves a detailed results right there. And then basically after this little screen transition, then we got ourselves a champion screen. So even though it says congratulations, means you're in #1. But if you're in second or third, it says try again. So, I'm #1, Tails is #2, and Thang the Sniper's the third. So, yeah, I guess I have to end things off here. So join us next time on Let's Play Sonic Drift 2. It's the fact that we're moving on into White GP Cup next. In this case, the White Chaos GP Cup. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.